How do you suggest doing database snapshot dumps and restore from production dev to dev and staging environments? And it's a hot topic. It always comes up in our release engineering conversations with customers. The issue is, of course, do you have sensitive data or PII, PHI, cardholder data, CHD in your production databases? The other is, what is the size of that data? The other is, do you actually need to do that? Can you get away with fixtures? So in the ideal outcome, you can just get away with fixtures, but the problem with fixtures is you're not testing a realistic data set to what you have in production. And the challenge of using what you have in production is leaking PII and PHI and cardholder data. And obviously there are the ethical concerns of doing that, but then there are the practical concerns. I have been in companies where they have a user list that makes its way into staging, and accidentally, like, the newsletter goes out to all those email addresses because they're testing something. So you want to have realistic data, but you don't want to have real data where you can accidentally communicate with customers.
There was actually a tweet last week by an AWS engineer that I follow who said that earlier in his career, he was testing something on a test system and accidentally sent every developer at AWS a thing telling them that their developer, like one of their developer keys had expired and that they shouldn't use it anymore, and it wasn't true. And he had to go send an apology email to thousands of developers. So
yeah,
that seems pretty scary. So
what was that? Everyone remembers what happened. Was it last year, or how long ago was in Hawaii? There was the emergency, warning that this is not a drill. It was, head for cover, something to that effect.
Yeah, and they accidentally sent it out to everyone. So
yeah, it was 2018 already.
Yeah. So there's also something to be said about anonymizing the data as you copy it over. I mean, if you absolutely must have very good quality production data in staging, my suggestion would be is to build yourself some sort of ETL pipeline that extracts the data from production, scrubs it for any sort of PII, and anonymizes it so that you don't end up with any of those mistakes. And then you can schedule that job to run on a regular basis and make sure that you have production-like data in staging.
You can also use a feature of AWS, which is database migration service, which has possibility. I don't remember how exactly it can do this, but it has possibility to mask something what it identifies.
Oh, DMS can do masking? Because that would be interesting.
Yeah, I just found a blog post about this exactly.
And that can. Yeah. And the benefit with that is then you can actually be streaming a journal from your production to staging and keep it relatively scale-wise up to date just with anonymized data.
So they have support for expression-based data transformation.
But now,
hey Eric, we're working on this right now ourselves, and there's a Postgres RDS plugin that will help. That it doesn't run. It actually does the scrubbing in a Java extension on the server, but apparently doesn't work with RDS anymore. So we're looking at pulling something in the prod account, scrubbing it there, pushing it to a bucket in a global account or whatever.
And that'll work, right, for reasonably sized data sets. Oh, we got 50 gigs, 20 gigs, 10 gigs, 100 gigs. You have 2 terabytes. You're probably not going to want to be ETLing that on a regular basis or greater.
Yeah, but my suggestion wasn't to do the entire the
Take a
entire
subset.
database every night. It's
Yeah.
either take a subset or just take change sets. Like presumably
change.
you can tell when the last time you updated your database was. So give me everything that has
Mhm.
updated since yesterday, or last hour or last 15 minutes or whatever, and then run your pipeline on it. I've seen it done with some like extremely large databases that way, that hold healthcare data, and it works fairly well.
Yeah, plus we're looking at, the schema we expect to change. We know it's going to change from customer to customer, day to day, and how people are feeling that day at times. So, we're also working on a strategy that's going to sort of abstract that level out. So, we're going to be pushing the raw files in whatever standard format is appropriate to that version, and then we'll have some kind of conversion configuration. And we're looking for those tools, to bring it to the global, data store definition, however that's going to work.
I don't know if I don't think this is what I was thinking of, but I remember seeing something at some point. Now this one's not been maintained and updated, but I remember seeing some official project that strived to help with this problem. But anyone know?
I know you can use Athena for sure to anonymize data. It has it has a function to do that.
So if this is like an offline job, we've got options like we could run it in a Kubernetes cluster, the data pipeline, EMR. I don't know. It sounds like a database migration tool might be an option. Guys, have any thoughts on on those approaches?
All I could add would be going back to our conversation, was it last week or the week before, we were talking about preview environments and what your use case is. So if the use case is to use these data sets with short-lived ephemeral environments that you want to come up quickly, then looking to containerizing that data set so you can just run it under Kubernetes and have it come up within a couple seconds or a second, versus waiting on an RDS database to come online.
Yeah, the hierarchical namespaces gave us hope for ephemeral environments. I'll have to look more into it, but much easier to spin those things up there.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Sure thing.
A strategy I've used for Elasticache, but I know the APIs are similar for RDS in that you can export a snapshot because we have distinct staging and production accounts, is we take snapshots in production, export them to S3, and then restore into the staging account. And it's not trivial because you essentially have to either, especially if you want to set up like a CloudWatch event to be sent across the default bus to another account, it's somewhat involved and a little bit convoluted and not typical, but that is one approach that if you
but then there's no scrubbing of the data, right, in that situation, because you're
a distinct step. Yeah, you want
yeah.
So I think that's like
in the account, in the prod account before it leaves.
Well, or at least in transit, somewhere in the in the transpose step, however that happens. I mean, you could simplify some of this in a kind of Scout's honor way, where you do the RDS snapshot, you restore the snapshot in staging, and then you kick off a process to clean it up. And there's a window where you could leak some information. It's not ideal, but complexity-wise, that'd be simpler, possibly.
Yeah, I think we have compliance restrictions that wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, I was gonna say in HIPAA, particularly in HIPAA, that would be illegal. Either that, or you would end up you would opt in your staging environment to be a covered account, basically at that point.
Yeah, like I've been sort of talking about this for a while here, and found out that somebody was working on it, and that's that developer where I'm like, you got to watch him, And he's telling me, like, yeah, I found this code. It's great. So I just download the data to my desktop and I'm running it. I'm like, you're downloading prod data to your desktop. Like, I told you people to talk to me about this, you know? But now the visibility of this has been raised, and we hired a really good data engineer. So we're looking at getting this in order and doing it properly. We, you know, also for forensics, you know, you want to look at what's going on in a prod issue. You need that, and you need, you know, a snapshot, which is a whole separate path of data from, you know, your scrubs, dumps, data sets, you know.
Yeah.
So, while the only solution here I see is that you restore a snapshot in production, you sanitize it, and then you transfer it in anywhere. But the alternative way is to make sure that you actually have as much metadata and non-compliant data in the other database, in the other account, and you only actually store like a key. Well, have a key value store which refers which stores in aliases in the compliant environment. So then all the amount of data and complexity goes into the non-compliant environment, and the compliant remains only key value.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
And I was previously working in a startup which does a SaaS for this called Very Good Security. So which they actually do is host this key value for you and make you compliant because you store all the sensitive data in their key value. So, but you can also do this on-prem on your own, and there's also startups which do this for you on-prem on your own too. I don't recall the name actually, but you can Google. So it's like it's an emerging market right now, and people just making their life easier by moving the complexity out of the compliance accounts.
Well, thanks, Max. I think that was an interesting suggestion there on we've talked about all these other technical problems. And your suggestion is a little bit like, let's reduce the technical complexity by simplifying the schema if you have the option.
TokenX is the POS, is on-prem, and Very Good Security is SaaS. So, and I think there is more. So.